amazes me how much money people leave on the table when they get a job offer because they don't know how to negotiate. It also amazes me how many people were never taught how to negotiate, because why? Why didn't somebody teach us? Not your parents, not your teacher, not your manager, definitely not HR. I went from making entry-level wages to 4xing my salary over the course of my career. And the biggest reason that happened wasn't my performance, it wasn't luck, it was that I learned the game and I started playing it. In this video, I'm gonna tell you everything you need to know about negotiating your salary. Let's get into the stuff that I wish someone had told me from day one. Let's start with why most people aren't negotiating, because I think it's important to understand this before we get into how to do it. Number one is that they don't know they're allowed to. Seriously, a lot of people, especially first generation professionals, people who didn't grow up around corporate culture, don't know how important it is to advocate for yourself. And that's essentially what salary negotiation is. When you go to a doctor appointment, when you go to buy a new car, you go to get a house, you have to advocate for yourself so that you get the best offer available to you. And negotiating your job salary is no different. And a lot of people just don't think about it that way or may not know that. The second reason why people don't negotiate is because they're afraid. Some folks are afraid the offer will be rescinded, that they might look ungrateful or greedy, or that they'll be seen as difficult before they even start. But here's what I want you to know. Companies do not rescind an offer because you've asked for too much. The only time you're gonna see an offer rescinded is if you have some background check issues, you were caught lying, you were being extremely disrespectful, or you were being unprofessional, not because you asked for more money. Companies also expect for you to negotiate on their behalf. The more you grow at a company, you're gonna need to be able to advocate for that company when the heads of those companies are not in rooms, and they're going to expect you to do that the more you grow within that company. So if you can advocate for yourself in a respectful and professional and value-adding way, you're actually gonna be showing them that you're good for advocacy and you're a good influencer if you negotiate well. And that's gonna be their idea of you, versus thinking that you're greedy or asking for too much. And I would say the biggest reason, the number 3 reason that people don't negotiate is because simply we just don't know what to say. Now this one is fixable, and this is exactly what this video is for, so let's get into it. Okay, so here is the actual strategy, and I'm gonna walk you through it in order, starting with step 1, which is never accept the offer over the phone. So let me give you an example of what that sounds like in real life. You've been interviewing, you're stressed out because you also have a job, life is lifing, you're excited to get the job, you feel good about it, but you're also just overwhelmed and exhausted. Finally, a recruiter calls you and says, hey, sir, person, I wanted to let you know we're gonna send you a job offer. You're going to respond on the phone and you're gonna say, oh my goodness, I am so excited. This is the best news that I have received all day. So you're gonna start by being excited, and you're gonna start by being grateful, which is all true, right? Then you're going to say, I cannot wait to learn more about the details. I'd love for you to send them to me via email so I can process everything. That's it. That's all you're gonna say. You're gonna let the recruiter talk, and they're gonna say you're gonna say, I'm so excited. They're gonna say, yeah, we love you. We'd love to send an offer. What do you think? The team enjoyed talking to you. Whatever the recruiter's gonna say, you're gonna let them speak their piece. And you're gonna match their energy and simply end the call by saying, I really wanna make sure that I'm processing everything, that I understand everything, that I'm clear and that I don't have any questions. Can you send the offer via email? And I'm gonna respond to you shortly, but I cannot wait. Sounds normal, right? That's not asking for anything bad. That's not sounding greedy. It sounds real, genuine, professional, and okay to do. Once you tell the recruiter yes, that you've accepted the offer over the phone, you can still negotiate it, but it makes it harder to do. You still want to get the offer via email. So do not negotiate over the phone. I actually do not do well at that. I haven't done it, because it's easier to catch me up or push me harder when we're talking verbally than via written communications. So I just don't negotiate over the phone unless I'm backed into a corner. So I try not to do that. Step 2 is know your numbers. So let me tell you some facts. Most offers are negotiable within 3 to 4% of the base pay of your salary. That could mean if they're paying you hourly, you could negotiate for 3 to 4% of what they're paying you hourly more. So for example, if they're paying you $20 an hour, find whatever 3 to 4% of that is. I should know that. I'm not great at math, to be honest with you. And then ask for that, 20 something more an hour. If it's salary and there's a base pay, you should be asking for 4% more of that base pay. That's very reasonable at a minimum. And I would always ask for in between, maybe 4 to 6% more so that you can land in that 5%, in that 3 to 4% profit gain for you. The other thing is if you've received an offer with a sign-on bonus, you can almost always negotiate more cash, up to 50% more cash usually. Companies are usually willing to give out more cash than they are annual cash. But if it's a one-time check, like a sign-on bonus, and they've offered you $5,000, I would be negotiating for, let's say it was $50,000 a year with a $5,000 cash sign-on bonus. I would say, hey, I'd like to increase my salary to, in this email, a 10% cash sign-on bonus, and then I would figure out the exact number for 5 to 6% more than $50,000, whatever that is. That brings me to step 4, which is countering their offer in writing. So the recruiter or the hiring manager is going to send you an email. You're going to get the email and you're going to say something short and sweet, maybe a paragraph and a half. Your email is going to say something along the lines of, I am so excited to receive the job offer for, and you're going to write out the role in the job ID, be specific. I cannot wait to roll up my sleeves and get my hands dirty, get to work and start making an impact to this team and the greater organization. That's how you're going to start off the email. The second paragraph is going to say something like, in my past, I have a track record of bringing X, Y, and Z to all of my previous roles. And I know, or I'm confident, I'm going to bring much more than this to this organization. X, Y, and Z could be a lot of things. It could be of having, in my past, I have a track record of being able to add clarity when there's lots of confusion and little guidance. Being able to deliver 2 to 3 projects through end to end, year over year. Being able to collaborate effectively to drive adoption and impact amongst key stakeholders. You could make it super broad. And then you're going to say, after that sentence, with this said, I believe that a salary of, and you're going to put the exact numbers, not the percentages that we just calculated ahead of time. You're going to put the exact numbers that you're asking for. And then you're going to end the email back by saying, I'm so excited. You're going to end it with excitement again and enthusiasm. I cannot wait to work with the team. And I can't wait to see the impact that, we're going to drive together to this organization. I look forward to hearing from you soon. Thank you. You're going to end it just like that. And remember, the worst that could happen is they could just say no. You're not going to receive a rescinded offer. They're just going to tell you no. And the last thing I would add to this step is you do not negotiate back and forth with a company. So let's say a company says, hey, we may not give you 5%, but we'll give you 2% more. You're going to accept that. You're not going to go back and forth. They're either going to say no or they're going to give you some more money. That's the two options. What they're not going to say is we don't want you to work here anymore. They're going to say either take this money that we're giving you or maybe we're not a good fit. The last step is to simply know that the best time to negotiate your offer or to negotiate for more money at any company is when you are getting hired on. Because, for example, when I'm hired on, it's acceptable to have the conversation to negotiate your salary. It's not coming out of nowhere. You just got hired on and got a job offer. So you guys are aligning on each other's value, what you're going to bring and what the company's going to bring to you. It's the perfect time to have that conversation. In addition to that, it's important to know at most companies, not all, but I would say the majority of them, when you're negotiating your offer, if I negotiated my offer, let's say a company was going to pay me $90,000 and I didn't negotiate my offer and I accepted the $90,000 and whatever equity they gave me, if they gave me equity in the company or stock options and benefits and maybe a sign-on bonus, maybe not. Let's say that this person negotiated their offer. So this person negotiated their offer, and instead of making $90,000 per year with whatever extras, they negotiated to $96,000 per year with whatever extras. Well, let's fast forward to a year or two later, and now we're getting promoted, or we're moving teams, and we're due, or maybe it's time for a yearly review, and we have an annual salary increase. Every time that you increase your salary, it's going to be based off of a company increases your salary. It's going to be based off of a percentage of your current salary. It's not going to be a flat number. So for example, if they're going to give me a salary increase and give this person a salary increase, they may say, hey, we're going to give Samantha a 10% salary increase. And we're also going to give this person a 10% salary increase. But because this person negotiated their salary, they're going to end up making more money in the marathon of this career of theirs at this company because they negotiated and I didn't the first year. And so they ended up starting off with more money. And so now the results are compounding. That's the biggest reason why you should negotiate your salary. Okay, so closing out here, what's important for you to know and what I've learned and what I'm sharing with you is, remember, you're not going to be good at negotiating your salary until you start practicing. You don't ride a bike with the training wheels taken off until you fall. And then one day you're riding. Tying your shoes, same thing. You don't know how to tie your shoes until the day before you didn't know how to tie your shoes. It's the same thing with salary negotiation. You are practicing advocating for yourself. I've learned this the hard way and the easy way. When I got my first job at Amazon and I did negotiate my salary, the salary negotiation did not go through. However, I still got a great career-changing job. When I moved over to Microsoft, I was able to successfully negotiate my salary, but that's because I didn't successfully negotiate it in my past. And so I had practice at doing this. So you've got to practice and eventually you'll be okay. What never happened to me is a job offer was never rescinded for me advocating for myself. I just got better at advocating for myself. I've also learned and been at tables where it's important for you to know, so I'm sharing with you that it's not just your manager or one person who makes all the final decisions. They often have to go and advocate for you with their leadership and with HR. So the more clearly that you can articulate your case here, the easier that you make it for them to go fight for you. So you're not just convincing the hiring manager in this case when you negotiate your offer. What you're doing is you're giving them the ammunition, the ammo, to convince everyone else. Salary negotiation is a skill. And like every skill, you get better at it every time you do it. The first time that I negotiated, I was terrified and I left money on the table. But the last time that I negotiated, I walked in knowing exactly what I was worth and I got it. And it didn't happen because I got braver. It happened because I got more prepared. And I shamelessly learned how to advocate on my behalf and to put myself first. If you want my email template that I use to successfully negotiate my counteroffer at Microsoft, I have a link to it below in the YouTube description. And if you want to walk through your specific situation, I do offer one-on-one coaching. You can find a link to where that's possible, or also go to insidethecubicle.com. Also, just drop your salary questions in the comments. Subscribe if you want more of this. I'll see you in the next one.